Spider-Man, universes, and sacrifice, oh my! Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse released this weekend in 2023 and is directed by Joaquim Dos Santos, Kemp Powers, and Justin K. Thompson, who are set to also bring us the sequel to this movie, Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, next year. And this movie has a voice cast of Shameik Moore, Haley Steinfeld, Brian Tree Henry, Luna Lauren Velez, Jake Johnson, Jason Schwartzman, Issa Rae, Karen Sony, Daniel Kaluuya, and Oscar Isaac. Plus a whole bunch of voices and actual cameos from other Spider-Verse people and just other people that are just big celebrities in the TV world and the movie world. This movie's just one hell of a great, joyous time. Miles Morales has been the one and only Spider-Man of this universe for about a year, and recently he came in contact with a new villain in town called the Spot, who is able to create black holes from his body. However, Spot starts discovering more powers that he has of him jumping across universes into other Spider-Man franchises. So now the Spider-Verse police shows up to take care of this anomaly, and one of the agents is Spider-Gwen, who we saw in the first Spider-Verse film. But Miles believes that there is more to this visit from Gwen, and decides to follow her all across the Spider-Universes. And it's there where we go to, like, the Spider-Man police headquarters that is run by Miguel, who is Spider-Man 2099, who is voiced by Oscar Isaac, who's a total badass. His design looks absolutely amazing, and I don't know if we would call him a villain or a good guy in this movie. He's kind of towing the line, but you get his backstory just like we do in the original Into the Spider-Verse film, where once we meet one of the prominent Spider-Man, we get a quick little glimpse into their backstory, and when you realize what his is, you go, okay, I kind of understand where you're coming from. But speaking of backstory, we have a very long prologue in this movie before the title credits come up. A prologue on the life of Gwen Stacy, or at least the Gwen Stacy version that we saw in Into the Spider-Verse, where she is on the run basically from her dad, who is the police chief captain. They're putting an EPB out on her, and those segments, her in her apartment with her dad, are some of the most beautiful things I have ever seen on a screen before. Even if you take away the story, which I absolutely love and I think is absolutely beautiful, just looking at the screen, like, I get choked up just thinking, it's just art. You are literally seeing the definition of art and beauty on screen in those scenes in this Gwen Stacy, Spider-Gwen world. It's some of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Like, ever. I would take an entire movie of her in this world. Everything just looks beautiful. There is so much beautiful color. It looks like watercolors, actually. And it looks like all the coloring is kind of bleeding into each other, even like on her shoulders or on her head, bleeding into the background. It's stunning. If I could encourage you to see this movie, not based on the story at all, just simply on the visuals, this movie is absolutely worth it, and it's one of the most beautiful things, first off, of the year. This is going to be one of the best movies, one of the most beautiful movies of the year. If not, this is some of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. This movie is gorgeous. And then you put in that Gwen Stacy, Captain Stacy storyline, and I'm just in tears. I'm just in tears, and it's the fucking prologue. And then when we get into the main story of where Miles Morales is in his life, and then the relationship, the strained relationship that he is still having with his parents, who keep pushing him in one direction, but he's going in this other direction now that he is Spider-Man, and they don't know that he's Spider-Man. He wants to tell them because they want him to be one thing, they want him to stay close, they want him to stay in the city, but he wants to go off and do all these big and grandiose and great things. It's a beautiful relationship, and if you know the curse of Spider-Man, I'm sure many of you do. If you are watching this movie, you are a Spider-Man fan, or at least you've heard of Spider-Man. There's always some type of loss. There is always some type of death that happens in the Spider-Man canon, whoever the Spider-Man is, that helps propel them into being the Spider-Man for their universe. So to see this relationship kind of strain between the parents and Miles Morales, the entire time I'm sitting there with anxiety. I'm like, oh my god, one of you is gonna be killed. And I'm not going to be okay when that happens because I love both of you parents so much. Even though I feel like you're kind of hard on Miles a lot of the time, you're still great, and you're still great parents, and I don't want any of you to die. But that's kind of the Spider-Man curse and the Spider-Man lore, isn't it? Well, it is eventually revealed that that is what this movie and what the sequel is going to be about. It is about completing that canon piece for Miles Morales and how he doesn't want to complete that, but it kind of has to happen in order for the whole Spider-Verse to exist. You know, when I originally saw the first Into the Spider-Verse film, I was just in awe. I remember sitting there in the theater, realizing that my mouth was just hanging open because I was in awe of the artistry and the story that we were getting here. I read Ultimate Spider-Man, the Miles Morales introduction, his origin story. I hated him. I did not like him in the comics at all. But then that movie comes out and he's totally redeemed in my eyes. I love this character. I love Miles. And then he gets his own video game, which was totally badass. It was definitely too short, in my opinion, but it was a badass game, and characters from those universes may or may not appear in this movie. But this movie is successful in just continuing my love of this character of Miles Morales. And this movie quality is in parallel to the original. How many times can we say that a sequel lives up to the original? We don't say that a lot, but this movie definitely does. Now, I've seen a lot of correspondence and other reviews calling this a masterpiece, and they're saying it's the best Spider-Man movie out there, it blows everyone else out of the water. I am going to disagree with that, very slightly. I'm not going to fault anyone for thinking that at all. But the only thing that I can fault this movie on, and I've faulted other movies on it too, so I'm going to be fair in my rating of this movie, this is a part 1. There is no resolution to this story in this movie. There's a lot of exposition, we get a lot of build-up, we get a lot of setup for Beyond the Spider-Verse that comes out next year, but we don't get any resolution. Maybe a little tiny one here with Gwen Stacy. Maybe just a little bit. But this whole grandiose thing that they're building towards, I mean, they blue-balled me. I'm sitting there, I didn't want it to end. Which is a good thing, because I'm just loving this story, I'm loving these characters, I'm loving what I'm seeing on screen. But god damn it, I have to wait another year to get any type of resolution to what's gonna happen. So as of now, I would put Into the Spider-Verse just slightly above this one, but that is just a small little nitpick. I guarantee you are going to enjoy yourself going into this movie. I went with a friend who didn't see the original one. He just went into this cold feet, and he understood everything that was happening. He was having a great time. Loved all the voice cameos that we were getting in here. We got Spider-Cat, which was just adorable, and it was hilarious. It gives me a lot of high hopes for the third film in this franchise, and if that film next year sticks the landing, this is, by far, the best Marvel trilogy that we've ever gotten, and definitely one of the best movie trilogies that we have ever gotten. The animation in here, the animation changes between different versions of Spider-Man, and it's all gorgeous. The characters, I think, are great. The action set pieces, there actually aren't a lot of them. We don't get a lot of action fight scenes in here, but when we do, there's a very long chase scene that happens kind of at the end of Act 2 going into Act 3. That was great, so when we get there, it's all worth it. But there is a lot of building, there is a lot of exposition, and a lot of building of characters, which I appreciate, because it means it's only going to make Beyond the Spider-Verse next year that much better. Do yourself a favor, go out this weekend and check out Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. It's a wonderful story, and I can't wait for next year. I'm going to give Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse 4.5 out of 5 Blu-rays.
It's good. It's good.
So guys, if you've seen Across the Spider-Verse, what did you think about it? Which one do you prefer, Into the Spider-Verse or Across the Spider-Verse? Whatever you thought, comment below, let me know what you thought about it. And as always, if you like what you see here, if you like my take on movies, then hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell. See you the next time I release next movie review. So guys, I will see you next time on the channel, but in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.